Season 13 just started and Rell is standing strong with a 54% win rate in Diamond Plus. But don't get fooled, even though her win rate is very high right now, that doesn't mean you will have an easy time to get those wins when you just started playing her. This guide is gonna be my first video on this channel, and if you like it and want to see more content focusing around Rell, consider subscribing and maybe liking the video, would help me out. So I'm about to reach 250k mastery points on Rell, and last season I ended in Master, and this season I'm currently in Diamond 2 in Europe West. And in this guide I will go over the things I gathered in my journey of getting, at least in my opinion, really good at Rell. This would be a very traditional and somehow detailed guide, so I will go over a good amount of stuff, reaching from runes to combos. Below in the description and also in like the timeline of the video you will find the timestamps, so you can skip to things ahead if you only are interested in certain parts of the video. So let's start with the decisions you need to make before you even go into a game. Along with choosing Battle Queen Rell, because it's obviously the best skin on her, you have to choose which runes to take. Rell really only has two options right now, if we are talking Mastery Key runes. The two options are either Aftershock or Glacial Augment. While there is sort of a complicated progress of deciding which one of these you choose, I'm gonna simplify it a bit for this guide right now. If you want me to make an entire video where I go into a bit more of detail on the topic Aftershock versus Glacial Augment, then let me know in the comments. But the general rule is, you want to take Aftershock if you're playing against a tank supporter, and you want to go Glacial Augment if you're playing against an Enchanter supporter. Glacial Augment just really helps sticking to the Enchanter supporters and really helps killing them and chasing them down. Yeah, on surfaces, deciding which rune to take is really simple actually. Going down the rune tree with the Aftershock variant, you definitely want to take Shield Pesh first. The next choice can get a little tricky since every option is not too bad on Rell. Second wind you want to choose when you play against a heavy poke comp on bot lane, like Caitlyn or Ashe, where you get constantly attacked. Bone plating helps against all-in combos, as you can imagine, something like a Mumu Samira, which is not that unpopular at the moment. And conditioning is just a nice late game alternative. I wish I could say the next choice was a bit more straightforward, but also here all three options are valid. Of course you want to go unflinching when you go against a heavy CC team comp. But keep in mind, unflinching does not help against knock-ups and knockbacks. And if the enemy team doesn't have a lot of CC, then Overgrowth is definitely the better option. Revitalize, while rather niche, can prove useful in specific Q max builds. But if you're a beginner, you should at least for now stick with unflinching or Overgrowth. In the secondary rune tree, Inspiration is the way to go, since you don't want to miss out on Hex Flash. Hex Flash is such a useful tool to make plays happen, even when your most important spell, Flash, is not on cooldown. After that you want to go Cosmic Insight to get the aforementioned Flash more often. When going Glacial Augment, you can straight away select Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight without really thinking about it. The second choice is where you can select different options depending on your personal playstyle. I personally go for Futures Market, because I want the Kindle Gem and Ionian Boots combo as quick as possible. But I've seen good Rell players also go for Minion Dematerializer, just so they are able to control the wave states a bit better, or just because it's their comfort. On the secondary tree you of course go for Resolve, and you have the same choices as before in the second and the third row. But I also want to mention that Shield Bash, which is my personal choice, is really handy in botlane skirmishes. Summoner spells are pretty simple, it's usually Flash Ignite, since AD carries usually take Exhaust anyways. But when your ADC decides to go Heal Ghost or even something different, you can still go for Ignite, yes, but usually one Exhaust per team is ideal. Let's start talking items now. Currently, at the start of Season 13, the best mythic to go on Rell without a doubt is Radiant Virtue. Some may argue it's too expensive, and yes, it is really expensive, but it doesn't matter, because once you get the item, you don't really need other items to go from there. Radiant gives you everything you're looking for, so who cares if it is expensive if you're basically full build the moment you purchase it. After Radiant you can pretty much buy the usual tank support stuff. I will display the items on the screen right now. These are all really good. Before we move on, I want to talk about the holy grail of tank support item combos right now. Kindle Gem and Ionian Boots. This combo makes Rell early on already an absolute skirmish machine. With the ability haste it grants you, plus Ionian Boots also give you the juicy summoner spell cooldown reduction to get your flash more often. So now we are finally loaded into a game, and the first thing every Rell player should do is to ask them this question right here. Do I play unmounted or do I play mounted? By the way, I'm assuming you know what all the abilities of Rell do, because you can just check that on the client or on the internet. That's not really something you need a guide for. Right now on the screen you can see a tier list I made, in which matchups I personally like to play mounted or unmounted, or even if it doesn't really matter. The general rule is if the enemy support is easily able to cancel your crash down, or can easily dodge it or make the AD carry dodge it with some speed buffs like Karma or Zillion, you should go for an unmounted playstyle. If that's not the case, then mounted is usually the better choice. Since I'm not able to break down an entire laning phase in this video, I will give you 5 tips that can really help you in the laning phase. Tip number 1. Rell is really strong level 1. Don't be afraid to go for engages at level 1, especially when they play against an enchanter support and they overstep just to get like 20 gold from the support item. That happens a lot, just pay attention to it. When going for crash down and you're not 100% sure if it's gonna work out, but you want to go for trades, then make sure you use it from the top of the lane to the bottom of the lane, so you end up near a brush, and when the enemies make a good disengage, you can just go in the brush to take cover. In poke matchups, don't be afraid to use your flash level 1 or level 2 to engage, before the enemies can poke you down. You're playing Hex Flash anyways, so it doesn't really matter early on and it's not that big of a loss. Then for tip number 4. It does make a difference how many people you hit with your Q. So if you're able to adjust your Q in order to hit 2 enemies instead of only 1, then go for it. The extra healing really can make a difference. And for the final tip, in tank support matchups, not including when you're getting ganked by your own jungler, Rell usually excels at disengaging or at reacting to enemy plays. So be patient and wait for the enemies to make like a bad engage and then react to it and use it to your advantage. If you're a really strong bot lane like Rell Samira, you of course can also go for the engage. Now I want to talk about Rell's roaming capabilities just for a second. Yes, she can roam and yes, it can work. But from my experience, it usually doesn't when you actively try to go for kills. But she's great at covering ganks from the enemy jungler or even counter gank roams from the enemy support. So covering mid when you feel like your mid is about to get ganked can definitely pay off. So I've survived laning phase and now we reach the mid and late game. So what am I supposed to do now? Now starts the time where Rell really shines. When you ask anyone about Rell's strength, they will say that she's a teamfight monster. And that's absolutely right. Rell can single-handedly win teamfights in the matter of 1 combo. We'll go over the combos after the section, by the way. It can be game winning to go for these combos. But one thing I want you to keep in mind, that Rell is as good at counter engaging than she is at engaging herself. As I said earlier, Rell is as strong as playing a reactive playstyle as an active playstyle. So now, to wrap this video up, I will show you the few but very simple combos that you can do on Rell. The combo I personally use the most, and I think you also will find the most use in, is the WE combo, which includes you using your E stun in the middle of the W. It can be comboed with the flash as well, just to surprise the enemy a bit more. The whole premise of this combo is to not give the enemy a chance to dodge your W, since they will be stunned mid-air from your E. I use this all the time, plus it goes both ways. You can also use the time spent air from crash down to connect to a nearby teammate. And when your W hits, right after your WCC duration ends, you can use your E to extend it a little bit more. The main teamfight combo is also very simple. You just have to press ult while being in crash down. Usually it's comboed with your flash to gap close, and when you have flash, this combo really gets dangerous for the enemies. That's why you want your flash to be up as often as possible. Then we just have 2 really small and quick combos. There's Q flash and there's also R flash. R flash not really used too often, Q flash also, but you can flash to maybe get more people with your Q. I just wanted to mention them because they do exist and you might have some moments where it could prove useful. And yeah, that's pretty much all the combos there are on Rell. At least discovered combos for now. There are of course some more combos that exist but are not really useful. For example, you can E and ult while crash down if you press it right after each other. But usually that doesn't really matter. It does exist, but it makes no sense to go for it. Alright, that's gonna be the end of the guide. I really hope you enjoyed and you learned something from it. See ya!